killing another teen last month, will be tried as an adult and is heading to trial.
Prosecutors allege that Christopher DeLong Jr. stabbed Clayton McCue. It happened with a knife in his head during a fight at an area church parking lot. And new tonight, producer Roger Hamer shares the new details on the case revealed in court today.
Prosecutors allege that DeLong, then 15 years old, killed 16-year-old McCue after a confrontation over DeLong allegedly assaulting his girlfriend. Omaha Police Detective Chad Frodema told the court McCue and 3 others showed up at DeLong's house wanting to fight him one-on-one with no weapon. 2 adults broke up the confrontation, but the teens conversed through social media, agreeing to meet in a church parking lot near 180th and Q. The detective said surveillance video there captured McCue walking toward a car with DeLong inside carrying a baseball bat.
And he rushes towards Mr. McCue, pointing the handgun at his head.
Does he display any other weapons?
After transitioning the gun to his left hand, he appears to reach into his hoodie pocket and he pulls out a trench knife. And I believe this to be a replica. Trench knife is a World War I model style of knife. It is a fixed blade knife that has a brass knuckles attachment at the handle and a punching spike on the bottom.
The detective said minutes later, out of view of the surveillance camera, a witness claims McCue tried to knock the gun from DeLong's hand with the bat. DeLong then allegedly punched at McCue before retreating back on camera, with McCue following him, now unarmed.
Mr. DeLong can be seen making a swinging motion with his right hand.
And when Mr. McCue comes back on the screen, what is he doing?
He immediately collapses to the parking lot ground.
Detective Frodema said a 3-inch deep stab wound in the front of the teen's right ear killed him. DeLong's attorney argued the case laid out by the prosecution doesn't warrant a second-degree murder charge.
He's running away from the victim, moves or swings his arm behind him without intent. Contact is made, and unfortunately, as a result of that incident, the victim passed away. It's tragic, but it's not intentional. I'd ask this court to consider binding this over on a manslaughter, a lesser included, because the evidence does not show any intent on the part of my client.
Judge John Huber found probable cause, binding the case over to district court for trial. At the Douglas County Courthouse, Roger Hamer, WOWT 6 News.
All right, thanks, Raj. Meantime, no date has been set for that trial, and sadly, several times in court today, both sides mentioned that the teens could have de-escalated the situation by simply walking away.